The job offer sounded simple at first. Babysit a baby for one night. But when the number $20,000 appeared on the table, even the most experienced nannies in the city stepped back. They whispered excuses, avoided eye contact, and quietly walked away. Because this wasn't just any baby. This was the billionaire boss's baby. And everyone knew that nothing in billionaire Adrian Keller's world was ever simple. Adrian Keller was a man people feared more than they respected. His name was on skyscrapers, luxury hotels, and companies worth millions. His decisions could make someone rich overnight, or destroy their life just as quickly. He rarely smiled. He rarely trusted anyone. And after his wife passed away unexpectedly 6 months ago, he trusted people even less. The only person left in his massive mansion was his 6-month-old son, Noah. Noah was the one thing Adrian Keller loved more than his empire. But loving someone and knowing how to care for them were two different things. That's why Adrian's assistant had called the top babysitting agencies in the city. The offer was shocking. $20,000 for one night. No negotiations. No questions. Just one condition. Absolute trust. Yet strangely, every professional nanny who came to mansion left within minutes. Some said the house felt too quiet. Others said Adrian Keller's cold eyes made them uncomfortable. One nanny even walked out without taking the advance payment, her hands shaking. No one explained why. And soon, the news spread quietly among agencies. Babysitting the billionaire's baby was not worth the money. Meanwhile, in the same mansion, there was someone nobody noticed. Her name was Sophia. Sophia was the maid. She wasn't famous. She wasn't educated in childcare. She didn't wear expensive clothes or speak with confidence. She simply cleaned floors, washed dishes, and stayed invisible. She earned barely enough to pay rent for her tiny apartment. Every day, she walked past luxury she could never afford, living in a world that wasn't meant for people like her. But Sophia noticed something others didn't. She noticed how baby Noah cried longer than usual when left alone. She noticed how he stopped crying when she quietly hummed while cleaning nearby. She noticed how his tiny fingers reached toward her, searching for comfort. And one night, everything changed. Adrian Keller had an emergency meeting overseas. His assistant panicked. There was still no babysitter. The agencies refused. The nannies refused. No one wanted the job, not even for $20,000. The mansion felt colder than ever. The baby was upstairs, sleeping, unaware that no one had agreed to watch him. Sophia stood quietly in the hallway, holding her cleaning cloth. She could hear the assistant arguing on the phone. She could hear the desperation growing. She could feel the tension in the air. She knew she wasn't qualified. She knew no one had asked her. She knew this was not her place. But she also knew something else. The baby should not be alone. Her heart pounded as she took one small step forward. And in that moment, Sophia made a decision that would change her life forever without knowing the truth about why no one else had accepted the $20,000 job. Sophia's fingers tightened around the cleaning cloth as she stood frozen outside the nursery door. The assistant's voice echoed faintly from downstairs, still arguing with someone on the phone, still searching for a solution that wasn't coming. Every second that passed made the mansion feel larger, emptier, and more fragile. Sophia had worked in this billionaire house for nearly 8 months, yet she had never felt its silence this loud. She slowly pushed the nursery door open. The room was soft and warm, filled with gentle yellow light. Expensive toys sat neatly on white shelves. A beautiful crib stood near the window, overlooking the glowing city skyline. Everything in the room was perfect, everything except the small baby inside the crib, who had begun to stir. Noah's tiny face tightened, and a quiet cry escaped his lips. Sophia froze. Her heart raced instantly. She wasn't a babysitter. She was just a maid. She cleaned messes. She stayed invisible. She followed rules. And one of the biggest unspoken rules in the mansion was simple: never interfere. But Noah's cry grew louder. It wasn't the loud cry of anger. It was the soft cry of loneliness. Sophia stepped closer, without realizing it. Her body moved before her mind could stop it. She looked down at him, his small hands reaching into the air, searching for someone who wasn't there. For a moment, she hesitated. If anyone saw her, she could lose her job. In a billionaire household, boundaries mattered more than kindness. She knew that, but Noah's fingers curled and uncurled helplessly, and Sophia remembered something. She remembered her younger brother, years ago, when their mother worked 2 jobs and left Sophia to watch him at night. She remembered how babies didn't need perfect people. They just needed someone who stayed. Without thinking further, Sophia gently placed her cleaning cloth on the table and leaned closer to the crib. "It's okay," she whispered softly, her voice barely audible. Noah's crying paused for a second, as if he recognized her voice. Sophia hesitated again, fear creeping into her chest. What if the billionaire boss found out? Adrian Keller was known for his strict rules. He trusted contracts, not emotions. He trusted professionals, not maids. There was a reason he had offered $20,000 to strangers instead of asking anyone inside his own house. That thought alone made her step back slightly. Why hadn't he trusted anyone here? Why did every nanny refuse? And why did his assistant sound so desperate tonight? Sophia looked at Noah again. His eyes were open now, wide and searching. He wasn't crying anymore. He was simply looking at her. It felt like he was waiting. Downstairs, Sophia suddenly heard the front door open. Heavy footsteps entered the mansion. Voices followed, quiet, serious, and tense. Sophia's heart skipped. Adrian Keller was supposed to be gone already. He wasn't. His voice echoed faintly through the hallway. Calm but sharp, the kind of voice that made everyone nervous. "Did you find someone?" The assistant didn't answer immediately. That silence said everything. Sophia stepped away from the crib quickly, her pulse racing. She knew she shouldn't be there. She knew this moment could cost her everything. But as she reached the door, Noah made a small sound again. Not a cry, but something softer. Almost like he didn't want her to leave. And downstairs, Adrian Keller's footsteps began moving toward the staircase. Sophia's breath caught in her throat as she heard Adrian Keller's footsteps on the stairs. They were slow, steady, and impossible to ignore. Every employee in the mansion knew that sound. It was a sound of authority, the sound of someone who noticed everything. She stepped toward the door, her hands slightly trembling. She told herself to leave. This wasn't her responsibility. This wasn't her place. But her feet didn't move fast enough. Noah made another soft sound behind her. Sophia closed her eyes for a second, then gently slipped out of the nursery, leaving the door slightly open. She picked up her cleaning cloth and tried to walk normally, trying to look like she belonged there, trying to look invisible. But Adrian Keller was already halfway up the staircase. He stopped when he saw her. For a moment, neither of them spoke. His sharp eyes moved from her face to the nursery door behind her. Sophia lowered her gaze immediately. She could feel the weight of his silence pressing against her chest. "Why are you here?" he asked. His voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. Sophia swallowed. "I was cleaning, sir." It wasn't a lie, but it wasn't the full truth either. Adrian looked at her for another second, as if measuring her words. He didn't look angry. He looked tired, more tired than Sophia had ever seen him before. From inside the nursery, Noah made another small sound. Adrian's eyes shifted instantly toward the door. For a brief moment, something changed in his expression. The cold businessman disappeared, replaced by something softer, something human. He walked past Sophia and gently pushed the nursery door open. Sophia stood frozen in the hallway, unsure if she should leave or stay. She watched as Adrian stepped inside and approached the crib. His movements were careful, almost hesitant. He looked down at Noah, who was now wide awake, quietly staring back at him. Adrian didn't pick him up. He just stood there. It was clear he loved his son, but it was also clear he didn't know what to do. Behind Sophia, the assistant slowly came upstairs. His face looked tense, his phone still in his hand. "Sir," the assistant said carefully, "the agencies refuse again. No one is willing to accept the babysitting job, not even with the full $20,000. Adrian didn't turn around. "Why?" he asked quietly. The assistant hesitated. They didn't give a clear answer. But Sophia had heard the rumors. Employees talked quietly when Adrian wasn't around. They said the previous nanny had left suddenly. They said she refused to explain why. They said she looked frightened when she walked out of the mansion for the last time. No one knew the truth. Or maybe no one was allowed to say it. Adrian finally turned around, his expression unreadable. "I have an overseas meeting," he said. "I can't cancel it." The assistant nodded nervously. "Yes, sir." Silence filled the hallway again. Noah's quiet breathing could be heard from inside the nursery. Adrian looked at the assistant. "Find someone." His voice was calm, but there was pressure behind it. The assistant didn't respond, because there was no one left to find. And in that heavy silence, Adrian's eyes slowly shifted. They landed on Sophia. She froze instantly. She wasn't a nanny. She wasn't trained. She wasn't part of his trusted circle. She was just a poor maid who cleaned his floors. But at that moment, she was the only person standing there. Adrian studied her carefully, as if seeing her for the first time. Sophia's heart pounded so loudly, she was sure they could hear it. She didn't speak. She didn't move. She didn't know that in the next few seconds, her life, and the life of the billionaire boss's baby, was about to become connected in a way neither of them expected. Adrian Keller didn't speak immediately. His eyes stayed on Sophia, calm but searching, as if he were trying to solve a problem that had no easy answer. Sophia felt her throat tighten. She had never been looked at like that before, not as just a maid, not as someone invisible, but as someone being considered. The assistant noticed it too. His posture stiffened slightly. "Sir," the assistant said quietly, unsure if he should interrupt the moment. Adrian raised his hand slightly, silencing him. Sophia's mind raced. She knew what this moment could mean. She knew what he was thinking, and fear crept into her chest. This wasn't a small request. This was his son, his only son, the billionaire boss's baby. "Have you ever cared for a child?" Adrian finally asked. His voice was calm, but the question carried weight. Sophia hesitated. The truth sat heavy on her lips. "Not professionally, sir," she answered honestly. "But I helped raise my younger brother." Adrian didn't respond right away. Behind him, Noah made a soft sound again, his tiny hand moving in the air as if reaching for something familiar. Sophia noticed it instantly, and without thinking, she took one small step forward. It was a natural instinct, a human instinct, the kind that couldn't be trained or bought. Adrian noticed that too. The assistant shifted uncomfortably. "Sir, with respect, she's not a trained babysitter. This is a serious responsibility." The words hung in the air. A serious responsibility. $20,000 had not been enough to convince anyone else. And yet, Sophia wasn't thinking about money. She was thinking about the baby upstairs who didn't understand contracts, wealth, or fear. A baby who only understood presence. Adrian walked slowly out of the nursery and stopped in front of Sophia. Up close, he looked different. Less like a billionaire. More like a father who hadn't slept properly in months. "I need someone I can trust," he said quietly. Trust. It was a strange word in a house built on power and control. Sophia lowered her eyes. "Sir, I don't know if I'm the right person." It was the truth. She didn't know why all the professional nannies had refused. She didn't know what they had seen or felt. She didn't know what made this job worth $20,000. And that uncertainty scared her. Adrian studied her face carefully, as if searching for hesitation, fear, or hidden motives. Instead, he saw honesty. Downstairs, a car engine started outside. The driver was waiting. Time was running out. The assistant spoke again, more urgently now. "Sir, your flight leaves in less than an hour." Adrian didn't look away from Sophia. For a brief second, Sophia wondered what kind of man he truly was. The world saw him as a powerful billionaire boss. But in that moment, he looked like someone standing at the edge of something fragile. Noah's faint cry echoed softly from the nursery again. It wasn't loud, but it was enough. Adrian closed his eyes briefly, as if making a decision he never thought he would have to make. When he opened them again, his voice was quieter. "If you stay," he said, "you won't be doing it as a maid." Sophia's heart pounded harder. This wasn't just about babysitting anymore. This was something bigger, something unknown. The assistant looked shocked. The tension in the hallway grew heavier. Sophia could feel the weight of the moment pressing on her chest. She didn't know why every nanny had refused. She didn't know what she might discover, if she stayed. She didn't know what Adrian Keller wasn't saying, but one thing was certain. Whatever decision she made next, there would be no turning back. Sophia felt the air leave her lungs as Adrian Keller's words settled into the silence. If you stay, you won't be doing it as a maid. The sentence sounded simple, but it carried something deeper. It wasn't just an offer. It was a line being drawn between a life she had known and something she didn't understand yet. Before Sophia could respond, the assistant suddenly stepped forward. "Sir, there's something else," he said carefully. Adrian's expression tightened slightly. "What is it?" The assistant hesitated, glancing briefly at Sophia, as if unsure whether he should speak in front of her. Adrian noticed. "Say it." The assistant swallowed. "The last nanny called again." Sophia's heart skipped. The last nanny. The one who had left suddenly. The one everyone whispered about. Adrian's face darkened, not with anger, but with something colder, something controlled. "What did she want?" he asked. The assistant held his phone tightly. She didn't ask for money. She didn't ask for her job back. She only said one thing. The hallway felt smaller. Sophia's fingers tightened around the edge of her cleaning cloth. Adrian's voice dropped lower. "What did she say?" The assistant hesitated again, then spoke. She said, "Don't leave the baby alone tonight." Silence exploded between them. Sophia felt a chill run through her body. It wasn't the words themselves. It was the way he said them, the way the warning hung in the air without explanation. Adrian's jaw tightened. Did she explain why? The assistant shook his head. "No, sir. And when I tried to call back, the number was disconnected." Sophia's mind raced. Why would a professional babysitter refuse $20,000 and then call later just to warn them? It didn't make sense, unless she knew something. Adrian turned toward the nursery slowly, his expression unreadable. Noah was quiet again, watching, waiting. The baby didn't understand the tension. He didn't understand fear. But somehow, his presence made everything feel more fragile. Adrian spoke without turning around. "When did she call?" 10 minutes ago, the assistant replied. 10 minutes. That meant she knew Adrian was leaving tonight. That meant she knew the baby would be alone. Sophia felt her heartbeat in her ears. This wasn't just about babysitting anymore. Something was wrong. And then, another sound broke the silence. A faint noise from downstairs. Not loud, not obvious, just the soft click of something shifting. The assistant frowned. Did someone leave the front door open? "No," Adrian said immediately. "It was locked." They all stood still listening. The mansion was supposed to be empty. Only the three of them were inside. But Sophia felt it. That quiet, uncomfortable feeling that someone else might be there. Her eyes moved toward the staircase. The shadows below looked darker than before. Adrian noticed a reaction. His voice stayed calm, but firmer now. "Stay here," he told her. But his words didn't make her feel safe. They made her feel like something had already begun. Downstairs, another faint sound echoed. Slow, careful, almost like a step. The assistant's face had gone pale. "Sir, security didn't report anyone entering." Adrian didn't respond immediately. His eyes moved back to Sophia. For the first time, she didn't see a billionaire boss. She saw a father who realized that money, power, and $20,000 couldn't control everything. And upstairs, inside the nursery, baby Noah suddenly began to cry. Noah's cry cut through the silence like an alarm. Sophia didn't wait for permission this time. Her body moved on instinct, turning and stepping into the nursery. The baby's face was red, his tiny hand shaking in the air, his cry louder than before. It wasn't just sadness. It was fear. Behind her, Adrian stood frozen for half a second, torn between the sound downstairs and the sound of his son. Then the noise came again, a slow creak from the lower floor. Adrian's voice dropped into command. "Stay with him." It wasn't a request. It was trust. Sophia stepped closer to the crib, her heart pounding as she gently lifted Noah into her arms. He was warm and small, fragile in a way that made everything else feel meaningless. His crying softened almost instantly against her shoulder. Downstairs, Adrian moved carefully toward the staircase. The assistant stayed close behind him, both men silent, listening. The mansion had always been secure. Cameras, guards, locked gates. Nothing entered without permission. But tonight felt different. Adrian reached the bottom step and turned the corner into the main living area. And then he saw it. The front door wasn't open. It was closed, but one of the security monitors near the wall flickered. Just once. Adrian walked toward it slowly. The screen showed the nursery hallway. It showed Sophia standing there, holding Noah. And then the screen glitched again. The image shifted backward, showing the same hallway from earlier that night, showing the last nanny. The assistant's breath caught. "Sir, that's not live." The recording continued. The nanny stood exactly where Sophia had stood. She wasn't holding the baby. She was staring toward the camera, her face pale, her expression tense. And then she spoke, not to Noah, to the camera. "I'm sorry," she whispered in the recording. "He doesn't need someone trained. He needs someone who cares." The video cut abruptly. The screen went black. Sophia stood upstairs, unaware of what Adrian had just seen. She gently rocked Noah, humming softly. His breathing slowed. His tiny fingers held onto her uniform like he didn't want to let go. Adrian stared at the blank screen, his mind racing. The last nanny hadn't been afraid of the baby. She had been afraid of failing him, afraid of being there only for money. That's why she left. That's why every babysitter refused, even with $20,000. Because this wasn't a job you could do without heart. And they knew it. Adrian slowly turned and walked back upstairs. When he reached the nursery, he stopped in the doorway. Sophia stood there, still holding Noah, her expression calm, protective, natural. She didn't look like a maid. She looked like someone Noah trusted. Noah opened his eyes slightly and looked at Adrian, but he didn't cry. He stayed calm in Sophia's arms. That was the moment Adrian understood something he had missed all along. Money could hire skills, but it could not hire care. "You stayed," Adrian said quietly. Sophia nodded nervously. He needed someone. Adrian looked at his son, then back at her. "For how much?" he asked. Sophia blinked, confused. "Sir," he clarified. Everyone else wanted $20,000. Sophia shook her head softly. "I didn't do it for money." Silence filled the room again. But this time it wasn't heavy. It was clear. Adrian nodded once, slowly, and then something unexpected happened. Noah reached his tiny hand away from Sophia, toward Adrian. For the first time, Adrian didn't hesitate. He stepped forward. But before he could take him, Noah's fingers tightened suddenly around Sophia's uniform instead, refusing to let go. Sophia froze. Adrian froze too. And in that small, quiet moment, Adrian realized a truth that surprised him more than anything else. His son had already chosen who he trusted most. Adrian Keller stood there longer than he expected, watching his billionaire boss's baby hold tightly onto the uniform of the poor maid. It wasn't rejection. It wasn't disobedience. It was trust. Pure, honest trust that couldn't be negotiated, bought, or forced. And for the first time in a long time, Adrian didn't feel like a powerful billionaire. He felt like a father who had almost missed something priceless. Sophia froze, unsure what to do. Her eyes lowered immediately. "I'm sorry, sir," she said softly, afraid she had crossed a line she could never uncross. But Adrian didn't look angry. He looked thoughtful. "No," he said quietly. "Don't apologize." His voice had changed. The cold edge that everyone feared was gone. In its place was something human, something tired but real. He stepped closer, slower this time, giving Noah time to understand. Sophia gently shifted her arms, allowing Noah to see his father clearly. The baby blinked, studying Adrian's face. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, Noah released one small hand from Sophia's uniform and reached toward Adrian again. This time, Adrian didn't hesitate. He gently placed his finger into Noah's tiny palm. Noah held it instantly. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't complete. But it was a beginning. The assistant, still standing quietly near the door, watched everything unfold. He had seen Adrian Keller close billion-dollar deals without emotion. He had seen him remain calm under pressure that would break most people. But he had never seen this version of him. the version that understood what really mattered. Adrian looked at Sophia. You stayed when no one else would. Sophia didn't know how to respond. He shouldn't be alone, she said simply. That was her truth. No contracts. No negotiations. No $20,000. Just care. Adrian nodded slowly. From tonight forward, you won't be working here as just a maid. Sophia's heart skipped. Fear and hope collided inside her chest. You'll stay as Noah's full-time caregiver, Adrian continued. Not because you asked, not because I paid you, but because he trusts you. Tears filled Sophia's eyes before she could stop them. It wasn't about money. It was about being seen. In the following days, the mansion felt different. The silence wasn't cold anymore. It was calm. Noah cried less. He smiled more. And Adrian, despite his endless meetings and billionaire responsibilities, began spending more time in the nursery. He didn't try to replace Sophia. He learned from her. The mystery of the $20,000 babysitting job was no longer a mystery. The professional nannies hadn't failed. They had simply understood something Adrian hadn't yet learned, that caring for a child wasn't a service. It was a responsibility that required presence, patience, and heart. One evening, as the sun set beyond the city skyline, Adrian stood quietly at the nursery door. Sophia was sitting in the chair, gently rocking Noah to sleep. The baby's small hand rested peacefully against her arm. Adrian realized something in that moment. His son was safe, not because of security systems, not because of money, but because someone stayed when it mattered most. And for the first time since losing his wife, Adrian Keller understood that sometimes the most valuable person in a billionaire's life was the one who asked for nothing at all.